Now let's take a look at example 2. 3/4 of a pan of lasagna is shared equally by 6 friends. What fraction of the pan will each friend get? Again, we're going to set this division problem up from the word problem. We're going to solve it by using multiplication. And then we're going to prove it using an area model like we did in example number 2. Remember, the first number in a division problem, technically we call it the dividend, but it represents the total that we start out with. And in this case, we start out with 3/4 of a pan of lasagna. How do you get 3/4 of a pan of lasagna? We're talking, you have a whole pan and then somebody eats 1/4 of it, you have 3/4 leftovers. So what we're focusing on is leftovers in this problem. Shared equally, it means we're going to divide, we're going to split it up into equal size groups. The second number, the divisor, represents how many pieces or how many groups are we splitting it up into? We're splitting it up into 6. Finally, our quotient, our answer to a division problem, is going to represent how much or how big. Basically, how much of the entire pan will each friend get? Now, let's solve this by using some multiplication. Let's change that division into something that we know how to do. Keep the first number the same, change it to multiply, and then we're going to flip or find the reciprocal of 6. Well, if we think of 6 as a fraction, it's 6/1, but we got to flip it. You might have heard of the little saying, keep it, change it, flip it. That's what we're doing here. Keep it, change it, flip it. Now, we can multiply. But before I multiply, what I like to do is I like to look diagonally at the 3 and the 6, and I say, can I divide out a common factor? What I'm doing is I'm reducing it before I'm actually multiplying. I can divide out a 3 from each of those numbers. 3 divided by 3 now becomes a 1, and 6 divided by 3 becomes a 2. And I do that because I get smaller numbers that are easier to work with, and usually my final solution is already in simplest terms. Since I can't reduce anything out of the 4 or the 1 diagonally, I'm now going to go ahead and multiply straight across. 1 times 1 gives me 1, and 4 times 2 gives me 8. So that means each friend, in this case, will get 1/8 of the pan of lasagna. 1/8 of the entire pan that we started out with before we had the leftovers. Let's verify it now using an area model. So I'm going to draw my square, and I'm always going to start by drawing my total. My total, once again, was 3/4. So I'm going to split this into 4 pieces, and I'm going to color in 3 of those 4 to represent 3/4. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Matter of fact, I'm going to put a bracket above it and call it that, 3/4. Now, I want to split that green stuff that I colored, I want to split that into 6 equal pieces. I'm going to do it this way on an area model. Split it into halves first. Split each of those into 3 pieces, giving me 6 equal pieces. If you look at it, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal pieces. I'm going to take a look at one of those 6 pieces, bracket it off, one of those 6, and I'm going to color it. Now to get my solution, to prove my solution, I ask myself, how many of those pieces have both colors? That's my numerator. Well, 3 of them do. Out of how many total pieces? If I count them up, there's 24 pieces in there. And of course, that simplifies to 1/8, which is the answer that we got originally. Now, if I want to model that simplifying, what I'm really doing is I'm putting 3 pieces. I'm making different size groups here by putting 3 pieces in each group. See how I'm putting 3 pieces in each group? And of those groups, only one of them has both colors, and there's 8 of those size groups. So that's where we get our 1/8 from.